Hello and welcome back to another one of Mr. Burston's video tutorials. Today we're going to be going over Inventor and we're going to be looking at the pattern tool, both the circular and the rectangular pattern tool. Today specifically what we're going to do is we are going to create an old style American flag. So we're going to create the original American flag with 13 stripes and 13 stars. Now it's not going to be an exact replica, but it is perfect for demonstrating the use of both rectangular pattern and circular pattern. Let's go ahead and get started. Very first thing I'm going to do is I actually have this other little tool down here opened up called Snip and Sketch, and I have an image that I took of a site that helps calculate the size of the flag for us. So we can see up here there's a diagram of the American flag up here. More importantly, I picked the standard 3-foot width for the flag, and we're going to be running with that, and this tells me every other number I'm going to need to know. So with any flag, it's important that we get our dimensions right. Now with other flags, it may not matter as much, and I don't need to pay so much attention to the stars and the field of stars because I'm going to be changing that. But in general, this is really going to help guide how big I make my flag. The first thing I'm going to pay attention to here is the width and the length. Both of these are in feet, so it says 3 feet by 5.7 feet. Let's do that in Inventor. I'm going to hit Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to select on the XY plane. That's my front plane. I'm going to move my camera up a little bit. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to start down here at the center point, or the origin point, and I'm going to put in those numbers. So the first number that's highlighted is this top number up here, currently at 1.24. We're going to change that to 5.7, and remember I said feet, so I'm going to type in FT. Then I'm going to hit tab to change over to the other dimension, and I'm going to type in 3 because it's 3 feet. Now, it looks like our square has disappeared on us, right? Oh, that says 3 inches. Let's make sure that says 3 feet. There we go. Now it looks like our square, or our rectangle, has disappeared on us. So I'm going to tap enter and finish that up. Remember, if we zoom out, we were super duper zoomed in. If we zoom out, we can see that I have both of those dimensions. Now I click and drag these just to make it a little bit easier to read for myself. You don't have to do that. It's just something that I like to do. I'm going to hit finish. Now I zoom in on this little corner again. I don't necessarily want to, so I'm going to click the home button on my camera so I can see everything. I'm going to click extrude. And currently it's coming out 1 inch, and that is actually perfect for what I want. I don't need this to be very thick, and again, we're kind of using a 3D modeling software here to make something that really isn't supposed to be 3D modeled, but it, again, like I mentioned, it is a really, really good all-purpose tool, or it's a good way to show rectangular and circular patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to click on the front of my flag here. I'm going to start another sketch. Now this time around I'm going to start making the stripes. I'm going to go back to my image here, and so I'm going to look at right here. Stripe width is set at 2.77 inches. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to minimize that, click on my rectangle tool, go to the origin point, make a rectangle starting from down here going all the way over to the side, which means I don't even need to bother with that top number, and I'm going to go down here and change this number down here to 2.77, and I'm going to wrap that up. Just that easy, okay? So I'm going to go and extrude this, but this time around I'm going to change this to 0.5. And I'm actually going to reverse the direction on it. So it really doesn't matter if it comes out or goes in, but I want to reverse the direction on it because I want it to go into my flag. I want my flag to remain relatively thin. I'm going to hit OK. So there is my first stripe, and now here is where my rectangular pattern tool comes into play. Instead of making all 13 stripes, we're just going to use rectangular pattern. Now, when we open this window up, we see that currently we have selected features, so it automatically selects it for us. Basically, it's asking the question, what feature do you want to pattern? And so I'm going to come down here and click on my stripe. I don't want to click on the entire flag, just my stripe. I'm going to click on that. Then it's asking for 2 different directions. Now, I don't have to put in 2 different directions, and in this case, we don't need it. I just need 1 direction, okay? So I'm going to click on the mouse arrow for 1 direction, and I'm going to click this vertical line here because I want my stripes to go up the flag. If I clicked on this line up here, one of these horizontal lines, then it would go across my flag. I do not want that. So I'm going to click on this line right here. Now, let's take a look at what's happening. It looks like it's making it go down right now, which is no good. We don't want it to go down. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click on the flip direction button. I'm then going to come over to my distance here, and it's currently set at 1 inch, but we said that there are 13 stripes on a flag, and each of them are 2.77 inches apart from each other. So I'm going to change this to 2.77 and 13. Now, some of you are probably yelling at your computer right now saying, well, Mr. Burston, that can't be right. Yeah, it looks like you have 13 stripes there, but aren't you replicating this bit down here? Well, let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And I don't see any of my stripes anymore. Well, that's no good. I must have done something wrong. Let's go back to that rectangular pattern and look at what I did here. So I said that I need 13 stripes, and I said they need to be 2.77 inches across from each other. Both of those things are true, but you have to remember what we're doing. We're working with a 3D model here. So I'm saying I want this repeated. I want this little portion that I cut out repeated 13 times. Well, that's going to fill up the entirety of my flag with quote-unquote stripes, when in reality it's just a cutout that we made. So what if instead I drop this down to 7, because I know that there are 7 stripes starting here from the bottom, 7 red stripes to be specific, okay? Well, it looks better, but now it's only going halfway up the flag. Well, let's also remember that this is the distance of one stripe. I need to go every other stripe now because I need to leave room for my white stripes. So all we have to do is take 2.77 times 2, which, as much as I would like to believe in myself and my ability to do calculations quickly in my head, we're not going to try that. So let's do 2.77 times 2, 5.54. 5.54. So that's what we are going to do, 5.54. Other little fun fact as well. So when we type in 5.54, let's just go ahead and see that real fast. Hey, there we go. Now we have something that looks more like a flag, more like our 13 stripes. But real quick, let's go back to that real fast. If I didn't want to open up a calculator, if I were being super duper lazy, you can actually type math equations straight into little boxes like this on Inventor. The sign for multiplication is the asterisk symbol, and if I type in a 2, it will do the exact same thing. It will take 2.77 times 2 and use that as the distance between each of these. Let's move on to the union, or the field of blue, that we're going to need next. So let's go ahead and look at the front of this. We'll zoom in a little bit. And let's take a look at this. Union width is defined as 19.39 and the length is 27.36. Let's create a new 2D sketch on the stripe in the background. We're going to create this on the stripe in the background, okay? I'm going to hit Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, and I'm going to make that rectangle. Now, I have a terrible memory. I don't remember what numbers I just said, so I'm just going to click and wrap that up real fast and go back here. That way I can look at my numbers again, okay? So I said the width is 19.39, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my dimension tool, click on that, and we'll say 19.39. Enter. Perfect. Now, I need to be careful that I don't click on this line over here. It's no good for me to click on this line and dimension it. Let's go back one more time, and we said 27.36. So I'm going to click on that other line that I made, and we want that to be 27.36. Okay? Now, we finish that up. We go to Extrude. And I don't necessarily want this to be extruded out the exact same distance that we did everything else. I'll go over why in just a moment. I'm going to change this from 0.5 to 0.551. Okay? And again, I'll go over that towards the end of the video, why I did that. But it makes a defined field of blue. This is looking pretty close to an American flag, if I do say so. Okay? Last thing that we're going to take care of here is the field where we put the star. Now, you have two different options here. I'm going to go over how to make a star, but fun fact, in Inventor, there's no star tool. You're going to have to create a star yourself. Now, when we go back to my dimensions here, we can see that my star diameter is 2.22. This is the part that I care about. The gap in width and length I don't care about because, again, I'm not making the original 50 star flag. I'm going to make the 13 colonies flag, okay? So that's 13 stars in a circle. So the only thing I care about here is the star diameter, which is set at 2.22 inches. Now, in the description of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a timestamp there. If you don't want to deal with making a star, if you are like, star, too much. Well, I'm about to show you, you may think so, okay? If you want to make a star, follow along, but I will put down in the video a timestamp that you can skip to, where if you would prefer to not make a star, you just want to use the circular pattern, you just want practice with it, you can instead just use the circle tool. Use the circle tool, make a circle where I'm going to make a star, but I'm making a star, okay? I'm going to click on the circle tool, and we said that it was 2.22 inches. Now, I have no intention on extruding the circle, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the construction line, or I'm going to go up to this format up here. I'm going to click on construction. So this is going to say pretty clearly, so once we make this, and we'll make it 2.22 like we said, okay, take a look at how this line is dotted and the rest of our lines have been solid. So this really makes it clear that this is not for extruding, this is for different purposes. I'm going to deselect the construction tool. I'm going to go over to my line tool, and I'm going to make a very rough outline of a star here, okay? Now, like I said, it's going to be rough, but the main point is I'm going to have all of the different points here come to the edge of the circle, okay? Now, I'm having to restart this line every time I have it touch the circle, which is fine. And again, like I mentioned, you don't have to make this look perfect, because we're going to make it perfect. It's going to look beautiful and wonderful, and it'll be super duper awesome, okay? Here's my rough star. I'm going to grab my line tool. I'm going to go to my construction line again, and I'm going to make some lines that go through the center of my circle here, and you're going to see why here in just a moment. So I'm going to make one that connects down here to each of my points of the star, okay? So all these are construction lines. I'm not changing anything. I'm just making lines from the middle, okay? Now this is going to make things way, way easier for us. And here's what we're going to start doing. We're going to take the dimension tool. I'm going to mention between each of these lines. Now I know that the angle, the degrees, the measurement between each of these lines needs to be 72 degrees on the dot, okay? So I'm going to make that 72 degrees. You're going to see your star do some funky stuff. We're going to fix that in just a moment. We need to define each of these at 72 degrees first before we fix anything else. We're going to say 72, 72, and I'm going to go over here and do the same thing here, 72. Now, I don't have to do it with the last one, because it will say, I have this error that adding this dimension will overconstrain the sketch, because with these other four already defined at 72, we're good to go. I'm going to hit escape to stop using the dimension tool. If your lines are way out of whack, click and drag the points of them and adjust so that your star still looks like a star again. Now, some of these are kind of bound to each other in kind of a weird way. If you're seeing that happen, if you're seeing that, for instance, there is a parallel constraint. When I click on this line, take a look here, there's a parallel constraint that exists between these two lines. It's making it a little bit difficult for me to drag my star back into position. I do want that eventually, but you can see it's shifting everything all around. It's not really helping me right now. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on that parallel constraint, and I'm going to tap the delete key. Now, when I go to move this, so we have another problem. There's a parallel constraint that exists between these two lines. I'm going to delete that one too. Now when I move this, okay, you can see there's a parallel constraint between these two lines. There's all sorts of constraints all over the place. Let's take a look at what that constraint might be. So it wasn't a parallel constraint this time. We see that there's no parallel constraint, but if we click on this dot right here, we see that there is this one right here in the middle that is constraining those two lines. So let's click on that and hit delete. And now I can move that around a little bit more freely. Oh, hopefully I can move it a little bit more freely. I want to delete that one. I said delete. There we go. Okay, so now I can move that around freely. Okay. So I have this roughly back in the shape of a star. I'm not going to deal with that one right now. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do from here. I'm going to use these lines again, and I'm going to make the distance, the angle between this line and this line up here. Well, it says adding this will overconstrain the sketch. Okay, so we'll hit cancel. So that is being constrained by something. Maybe it's not something I want it to be constrained by. We'll check in on that in just a moment. So right here, it is not. So really what we need to look at here, I believe the angle is 18 degrees, but we're going to have to check in on that here in just a moment. Now, I've made a mistake here, and I clicked on that center part of the line instead of the line itself. You make a mistake, just remember, hit the escape key. That's going to stop doing whatever you're doing, and it's going to get you out of a tool that you're using, okay? So we're going to make all these 18 degrees, unless, of course, Inventor yells at us. If Inventor yells at us, then we won't make it 18 degrees, and we'll just move on, okay? So, but we're going to make each of these up. Once again, hit the middle of that line. I'm really good at doing that. Click there, click there. Okay, so we have, it will over-constrain the sketch, so we're not going to worry about that one. This one is not set at 18 degrees, so we'll set that at 18 degrees. Once again, hit the middle. If I had a nickel for every time I misclicked, I'd have a lot of money. And we'll click between here and here. And we'll go between here and here. Just making sure that everything is set to 18 degrees that wants to be set to 18 degrees, okay? And now, if you look at what we got here, we got ourselves a star, okay? Now, we can take this one step further. We could define the length of one of these lines. Now, the way that I do that, you'll notice that no number appears unless I drag my mouse all the way out here. But that is this vertical distance vertically between this point here and this point here. And I don't want that. What I want is the distance of this line here, and what that's called a normal. So I'm going to create a dimension that's normal to this line. We're going to click, and it says adding it will over-constrain the sketch. So I think we're all good. And I think this looks pretty good. This is our star. I'm pretty happy with it. We just had to make all those degrees. We had to have these lines running through the center. That way everything looked nice and good. Okay? Now, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to center this star along our field of blue. Okay? So I want this to be in the center because when I make this circle, I want it to look nice and good. Okay? And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to look back at my measurements because I don't remember anything. And I remember that the length, or I look and see that the union length is 27.36 inches. So I'm going to use that trick that I told you about earlier. I'm going to grab my dimension tool. I'm going to click on the center of my star. So that center point right there, and I'm going to click over on one side of my flag, and I'm going to say 27.36. The symbol for divided by in any math program is going to be the slash symbol, and we're going to say 2. And there we go. Now my star is centered in my field of blue. And I'm just going to set it up kind of high. It doesn't really matter too much, but I want it to be close to the top. So we're going to say that it's going to be, we'll say 3 inches from the top. There we go. And now all my lines turn black. This is a fully constrained sketch. Again, at this point, hopefully, if you skipped here, ignore all this. Just make yourself a circle. You can still follow along with the steps from here. I'm going to hit finish. I'm going to zoom in on my star. I'm going to click the extrude button. And I'm going to say 0.5, and I'm going to cut into my field here. Okay, so now I have a single star, but that's no good. I said I need 13. This is where the other part comes in. I'm going to make a second sketch on this field of blue here. I'm going to grab my circle tool. I'm going to pull it up to about where I think the center of the star is, or that point right there. And I'm going to let this line guide me down. See that dotted line that's appeared there? I'm going to let guide me down. And I'm going to make a super duper tiny circle. I want this circle to be 0.1 inches. That's all I want it to be, okay? And the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension, and I'm going to make sure that this is in the dead center of my flag. So I'm going to click on the center of that circle. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to click down here, and the width of this is 19.39. This time around I remembered. I need it to be half of that, so I'm going to say divided by 2. I'm going to hit the check mark, and there we have it, okay? And I know that this circle is otherwise centered beneath my star, so I don't need to do any other dimensioning work. I'm going to go ahead and click the Finish Sketch button. I'm going to click on the extrude, and I'm going to say the other direction or cut. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, you may be wondering, well, why did we do that? Let's go over the only other tool that we have left here, the circular pattern tool. I click on circular. Once again, it's just like the rectangular tool. It says, ask the question features, what do you want to pattern? What do you want to make in a circular pattern? I'm going to click. Hi, this is Mr. Burston. So unbeknownst to me at this point in the video, my mic had died on me, so I'm recording this after the fact, just rewatching the video myself. What I'm talking about here is you'll click on that rotation axis in the middle, And you can see now that we have our stars going around the entire thing. Now you can change that placement number because obviously we said we want 13 stars, so we're going to click on 13, and we can see how it looks around there. Now there's some other options in there. What I'm going over here is there's this rotational versus fixed. So see how the stars kind of go around in a circle and they're all or going around the center. If you click on fixed, then all of them will be the same orientation that the original star was. I think it looks cool in a different way, but I want it to look rotational around. I like the look of that. The other thing that you can kind of mess with here is this placement, the degrees. So that defines how far around you want the rotation to go. If you get rid of, so I drop it down to 6 and I change it to 180, you can see it only goes halfway around the circle. If I change it to 90, then it only goes a quarter way around the circle. So that's something else that you can use. But for the purposes of our flag, of course, we want it to go the whole way around. So we're just going to leave that 360. I'm going to change it back to 13 stars, and we're going to be good to go. And we're going to hit OK. Now, the reason that we made that field of blue a slightly different height is about to come up right now. So the flag looks good, the flag looks all right, but I think it would look even better if we colored it in. So the option I'm clicking up now is Adjust, that's at the top, and we can actually change the color and appearance of our different things. So I mess around with it, I click on the blue, I accidentally click over in the red area, but I want to click on blue, and you can change that little middle part to kind of change the grayscale of it, but I want it to be a deep, nice blue, so we change that field of blue to blue. And then we're going to go through our American flag, and we're going to change every other stripe starting from the bottom stripe to red. So remember, there's more red stripes than white stripes, so I'm going to click, and then I'm pressing and holding Shift and clicking on the other stripes as well. I go to click Adjust, and I'm going to go over to red, and I'm going to hit Check. Okay, and then we have ourselves a really nice looking American flag. And that really is all there is to the tutorial. So I hope you found it useful, and have a good one.